Okay. All right. Let's maybe get those doors closed. All right. Um, Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Griggs. I'm an ecologist from EPA headquarters out in Washington D.C. Thank you so much for having me out here. It's beautiful. This is Get Your Data Flowing with the Water Quality Exchange. Quick show of hands. Who currently submits data to WQX or has done so in the past? All right. And who has never submitted data to WQX, but now they need to? That's a lot of you. Okay. Um, you're going to get a crash course intro here. Hopefully, some of this will start to sink in. But if you guys have specific questions about your program, we're here all week at a table at the back doing one-on-one mentoring. I still have plenty of slots left. So let's jump into it. What we'll cover today, the big picture, Clean Water Act programs, and where does the Water Quality Exchange fit in? How does all that fit together? What is the WQX today? I say that because this is a system that's been in agile development for 20 years, and it has a terrible reputation. And some of it is deserved, but some of it is stuff we fixed a long time ago. And so I just read a case study that came out today, still talking about things that we fixed. So I like to say, what is WQX today? Because it's good to know about how it can work for your programs and not just be a burden. We'll talk about what is the best path, how to choose the best path for your program, depending on where you are with your data now, what your goals are for your data, because there are many ways to map and get your data onboarded. And then we're going to jump right into WQX basics, how you do it. So this is the life cycle of data. I like using this because all of us understand these kind of 5 boxes. This is the process that we go through when we want to go out into our environment and collect information that we can then use to protect our water resources. First step, study design. Then you're out in the field collecting the data. Then you have to manage it, right? That's the not so fun part. And then you can get to more fun stuff, analysis, and finally acting on what the data has taught you or communicating what you've learned. And so I like hanging um, our products and our systems onto this life cycle of data because it can make more sense this way. Within EPA's Clean Water Act, there are a bunch of different sections and programs that kind of stretch across this whole life cycle. And so these are some of the resources that are out there for navigating some of those different programs that you may have to interact with as part of your water program. And so I just kind of want to line them up. And then these are our online systems. So these are the online data systems that also kind of match up with these steps. Today, we are talking about water quality exchange. You'll see it's the first box, and it very much is the foundation of a water program, getting its data organized. All the data in the water quality exchange flows to the water quality portal, where there it is available for anyone to use and download and view. TDA is our newest effort. It's still being built. It's being built collaboratively. We have multiple tribes that are participating, contributing to that open shared development project. It's an automated data analysis, so it reaches into the portal and helps you massage some of that data. You can put in certain objectives about the data that you want to analyze, and it's going to bring it all together for you and then help you actually do your analysis and produce assessments. And then for those programs that are doing formal assessments, and we have about 22, 25 tribes that have volunteered and on a pilot to participate in ATTAINS. So ATTAINS is the assessment, TMDL, and tracking implementation system. It's where you upload your decisions about your waters. So you monitored your waters and found that they were in good condition. You can upload that information to ATTAINS, or you found out they were not meeting their uses for one or more parameters. That's the system where you upload your assessment information. And then finally, all this stuff flows up, rolls up to How's My Waterway, which is a public kind of information application. It doesn't store anything itself. It just reaches out to places where data is available on the web and then brings it together for the viewer to view all of that, information for their community. So just laying the quick groundwork for the different systems. I'm going to jump right into some of the big questions that we've gotten around putting out the new 106 data requirement. Just get these out of the way. Let's talk about these now. We get a lot of questions about indigenous knowledge or knowledge about specific cultural uses. None of that information should ever be being uploaded to WQX. WQX is just water quality data. So if this site is important to you or you identified it using indigenous knowledge or certain aspects about that site that you're monitoring, all of it gets left behind. We don't want anything being brought into the data systems that is sharing that indigenous knowledge, your knowledge. We don't want that, just water quality data. So I just want to clear that up. Get a lot of questions about that. So what are the new Section 106 reporting requirements? There's always been a requirement if you use 106 to submit your data, but there's also been a waiver. Was realized, especially through its history, WQX hasn't been an easy thing to navigate. It takes resources that you might not have. And so there have been waivers in the past that you could fill out and apply for instead, or you could send your data in a WQX compatible format, which just means it's in a spreadsheet. But they've strengthened the requirements. Now that they really do want, if you're collecting data with 106 funds, we do want the data to get shared up to WQX so that everyone can see it, the condition of waters are. So that new requirement is being written into WQ in the terms and conditions right now for 106 grants, 319 grants. And so the requirement will come down, I guess, October of this year, when we're expecting everyone that has collected data with those funds to be able to submit them. And that's a big reason why I'm here and I'm spending a lot of my job focus these days, trying to work with tribes, tribal exchange network, other groups, because I think you guys need a lot of support in this, and volunteering to give as much of that support as I can. So digging in a little bit further, there may be some site-specific places within your land, your waters, that you really don't want this information shared. So there are some options. How to kind of obscure this information. You can modify the location. So if you don't want somebody seeing exactly where something is, you can, obscure the specificity of the GPS coordinates, or just move it somewhere else to kind of make sense. I don't love that option because then it's kind of incorrect data that's out there. We don't know exactly where something is. Again, removing any kind of cultural use information. There shouldn't be anything that identifies these sites as being culturally significant or that used indigenous knowledge to identify them. None of this stuff should go to WQX, so you shouldn't be worried about sharing in that way. I will say caveat, if you are participating in ATTAINS, and again, that's a volunteer program, we have a number of tribes that have actually developed specific cultural uses for their waters. And so in that case, those tribes are sharing information about their cultural uses because they're trying to protect them. And so in the ATTAINS system, some of that is coming into play only if you're choosing to identify them that way. As far as the WQX, none of that information should be coming over. And then you can mark sampling data as preliminary within the WQX system. If you mark it as preliminary, it will not get pushed to the water quality portal. So that still means that EPA staff can log into WQX application and see it there and download it. But it's not going to be immediately publicly visible through our communication platforms like How's My Waterway. So that's another option. And then ultimately, if you have something that's incredibly important to you, you want to have information about it, but you don't want to share this information probably a good idea to not use 106 or 319 funds to collect the information from those sites. So find some other pot of money to fund collecting that data. Okay. So let's look at the connected water data systems for water quality exchange. We did this real quick. Um, we'll do this a little bit more. Water quality exchange is just a data standard. It's just a submission database. So it's where you put data in. Nobody in the public can get to it. You have to be a registered user. But all the data that's published there is made available out of the water quality portal. So that's when it's married up with all the data from USGS and states and individual nonprofits, thousands of users, and all of the data that comes out in the same format. So you can find data that others are maybe collecting upstream um, before the waters enter your land, or you can find other folks that are monitoring nearby, and you can bring that data in and use it as well. And then all of the data from the water quality portal is now available to be viewed within Housing and Waterway. So you can click on community or watershed, and you're going to see all of the locations where data has been collected. You can click the individual location and then get charts and plots and download the data directly from Housing and Waterway. If you haven't explored it recently, I definitely encourage you to do so. And we have specific tribal pages as well. For all the tribes that participate in the ATTAINS pilot, they have their own landing pages, just like states. Um, and it's very map forward. You can see their assessment decisions and their monitoring locations. There's been a lot of requests lately for us to do that same thing for all the WQX tribes. So not just tribes that are putting data into ATTAINS, but also folks that are just putting in water quality monitoring data into WQX. They also want to see their lands, the stations that they're monitoring and stewarding. So we'll keep having these conversations, and if that's something that's of interest to folks, we'll talk about how to start building out those specific pages for those tribes. So what is WQX today? Back in the day, it was a distributed database that we email out to people, and they had to use the system, and they had to put it in there, and it was clunky, and there were problems keeping everybody's data looking the same. And if we changed one system, we had to change them all and send out a bunch of new ones. That wasn't the way to do it. So WQX today is technology agnostic. We don't tell you how to manage your data or what system you want to buy or develop yourself. All it is an exchange standard, and it's designed to be automated. It's designed so that you can set up one time the flow from your data set, your program to WQX, and then push that button year after year and keep flowing data. So it's designed that way, and there are many ways to set up a program to take advantage of that. What we don't want is everybody every year manually reformatting all of their data they've already entered in one place, and then having to enter it again into our templates. That is time prohibitive. So hopefully we'll see a little bit today about the different options you have to navigate submitting data to WQX, and you'll be like, oh, that's the one that would probably work for us. So WQX, you see over here, is just the submission database, and then it pushes data twice a week to the water quality portal, and as does SGS pushes data as well twice a week to the water quality portal. And the way you get in is you need a perfectly formatted WQX XML file, right? None of us have that, right? So how do you get there, right? That's what you eventually need to submit. All the WQX fields, all of their names in an XML, right? That seems challenging. There are those of us out there that can just look at that documentation and they're running a relational database and they go, hey, yeah, easy, I can do that. I can spit up an XML file. I got this. And they can publish themselves on the Exchange network. And we do have a number of tribes that do publish their data that way. For a lot of other folks, they need a little help. They need some assistance making that translation from how they have their data now to how WQX puts it. And for that, we have the WQXWeb application. So WQXWeb application is built by our contractors who are here, Gold Systems. It's very, some of you might use Alpine as well. Alpine then publishes data through WQXWeb as well. Um, WQXWeb is basically filled with tools to help kind of map and reformat your data and achieve that standard. There's basically two things. There's the data set you come with, and there's import configuration that is you designed to teach WQX how to read your data. You can kind of lean on one of these more than the other. If you use the WQX web templates, you're 100% achieving the WQX standard. You've got our field names, our values, everything's filled out. And then your import configuration is really simple. Or you can leave your data set exactly how you have it now. It probably doesn't have all the metadata in there that WQX needs. It might be in a different format. You might just have each column be a different variable that you're measuring. That's really common. We can actually take your data in just like that. So you can teach an import configuration to read it data set the way that you have it, and you don't have to manually reformat it. So I look at these two things as a continuum. You can put a lot of effort on manually formatting your data set, or you can put effort on teaching WQX Web how to read the data as you have it. And then either way, put those two together, you're going to spit out the WQX XML file that ends up being submitted. Okay. We also have an API that's built onto the WQX web application that stands for Application Programmers Interface. So if you have a savvy developer or you've got a web-enabled data management system, you can actually send your data set with instructions to that API and do all the manipulation and right from your end. You don't have to go to the WQX web application. So for some folks that build high-end, web-enabled relational databases, um, they might choose to submit through that API. But that's pretty new. We've got like 2 states that are doing it. We've got a handful of tribes, a couple of nonprofits. But for those folks that are really tech savvy, that's an option. Okay. So the water quality portal is where this all comes out. It has data for over 1,600 organizations, over 410 million records. Last it's probably 430 now, over a million sites. So it's a lot of data. It's probably less than 10% of the data that's out there. So most people still have not gotten their data to WQX. Reason being, most that have it only did it because it was required, right? But what we're seeing now is that everything we've built as far as water quality portal and how we can hand data back to you and power systems like My Waterway, now everybody kind of wants to be there because who wants to stand up and manage their own relational database online? That's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. So you can use ours, and then we can pass the data back to any application you want. The water quality portal publishes data out of the query phase, and you can get some downloads, or that same interface will give you a little URL string that you can drop into Excel or Google Sheets or Arc Online, and it'll pipe your data into your favorite application to look at. You hit save, and it has that data stream saved. So anytime new data is published to the water quality portal that matches your query, all your charts and your diagrams that you've built will just automatically be updated because it's reading in data through that URL that you saved in the portal. So that's a really, really powerful feature that you can just, build your public communication, your analysis dashboard one time, and it's going to continually get new data every day that new data is published. This is what the query base looks like. If you haven't been there before, never had trouble using it, please do reach out to me on the EPA lead for water quality portal these days. So I'm happy to teach you guys how to get meaningful information back out of it. What goes in, it depends on what comes out. So I had somebody looking for a bunch of ocean data in Louisiana, and I said, well, I'm not seeing much because I pulled all the sites that were identified as ocean. But then I looked up, and all Louisiana DEQ's data is just uploaded to stream. So even if it's the ocean or the estuary, they call them all stream sites. So it's just important to think about garbage in, garbage out. You want to make sure that you're documenting your data correctly when you submit it to WQX, or else it's going to come out of the portal the way you want. My waterway again is where all this data flows to. It's powered by open data and public web services, so it doesn't store anything. It's just an application that's going out and reading data from the water quality portal, from echoes, so it's looking at discharges. You can bring in any layer from the Mark line environment, and it's going to add that to your map. You can now save these. You can build a whole view of the information and save it to your Alpine profile, and it'll pipe all that over to your own project. It includes all the ATTAINS data, so all of the assessment decisions, and tells you what's been identified as being wrong, I guess, with these rivers, what they're impaired by. And we're constantly developing this. We did some work with a subset of the tribes to get their input on what they would want to see for their tribal pages. And so this is really the 22 or so tribes that have data in pains. And so they talked to us about what they wanted to see. So like, for example, one thing that's very different when you click on a tribe in Housing Waterway, it immediately is going to open up a map and show you the tribal boundary and show you their lands. That was unique to them. That doesn't happen for states or others. So that was important to them. And so we did it that way. We're constantly making revisions on what this shows. And so if you have a concern or you have an idea, you reach out to us about how this information is being displayed. All right, so those are the three systems. Let's go ahead and dig in a little bit more into WQX. When you register as a new account, you're going to get a welcome letter and some instructions. And you're going to get this table that I put together of major WQX resources. And so I've got the big systems up at the top. I just have this here in this spreadsheet, in the slide, so that if you get this PowerPoint, you've got this nice list of things that you can navigate to. But when you register, like I said, you'll get this list as well. And we have more resources in this. This is just kind of a snapshot. But there's some YouTube videos and trainings on everything from how you register to how you use the templates or how you build out import configurations. We've got some best practice manuals for certain data types like nutrients that have a few more requirements than some other chemicals. And so I just want to put this here as a master list of resources. The other big resource I encourage all of you to use if you get stuck is the help desk. So if you email wqx@epa.gov, that's going to get forwarded to like 3 of our inboxes. And so you're going to get us almost immediately. You should get a response in a few hours. And you can request one-on-one support. So we'll set up a meeting and we'll sit there and help you guys out, look over your program, see what you're stuck on. You can even access contractor support through the help desk. We have contractors that are available to help folks do this. In addition, we've got monthly user calls. Again, an abundance of resources, and I'm constantly working on new ones. So how is data stored and organized in WQX? And I think this is something that's foundational for understanding what's happening there. It can be helpful to think of the data that's in there as being stored in kind of different levels or sets of related tables. When you register for WQX, first you create an organizational account. So whenever you're logged in, you're only logged in under one organization. Everything you're doing is under that organization. And then you're going to upload 3 different sets of information. You're going to upload a table of your projects. So it's literally just a project ID, description, and you can attach your QAPP if you want, or your SOPs, or you can just put in a URL if you have them on your website. But just information about your projects. That's it. The next thing you'll upload is a table of just your locations. So it's just information about your official monitoring sites. What's their ID? What's their name? You can give a description of it. What is the water body type? Is it a stream? Is it a canal? But pretty basic information about the locations. And the big thing is that we get an ID out of both of those. because when it's time to upload your results, you include those IDs. The project ID, whoop, do I have a pointer? Let's pretend I have. So you've got a project ID and a location ID. That way we have everything that we want to know about your projects and maybe the quality assurance that happens there. And we have everything we need to know about the locations and where it is, what kind of location type it is. But you don't have to repeat all of that information in with your results. So it's just the IDs. And then what gets uploaded for the results is pretty simple stuff. Who, what, how. Um, what is it that you measured? What are the units? What methods did you use? What equipment did you use? And of course, some things require more fields than others. If you're out there doing biological fish tissue, there's going to be a few more fields of information that we need to know about that fish tissue sample. So let's do a step-by-step example. And these will be examples using the WQX Excel web. And I like to use them as examples because, again, they lay out the whole requirement for you, all the fields, all the values that you can use. They're all built into the templates. So even if you're not planning on using the templates for your submission, if you want to leave your data set the same, it can be helpful to review them because they do kind of paint a picture of what the data should look like in the end. Step one, you register for a WQX account. So if your organization already has one, maybe you are a new employee, it's going to be up to you to submit the data. If you don't have a WQX account yet, that's step one. So go ahead and reach out to us at the desk email and include this basic information, your name, and what WQX org ID you are going to be uploading data to. And we give you videos for that. Step two is a big one that I think most people don't think about because they don't realize they have options available. I was guilty of this. I used to do a lot of WQX support for small organizations before I got the EPA, and I didn't realize that you could map your existing data set through import configurations in the app. I thought you had to use the Excel templates, and I was, man, that's a real time joke there. Taking all your data, reformatting it manually to get into these Excel templates. That's not the only way to do it. That's the manual way to do it. But it's there, particularly for organizations maybe they're just starting out. And you haven't done any data entry yet. You might as well use the web Excel templates because now your data is formatted correctly for Excel. For WQX, and you can use that for a number of things. Or you have an old data set. This was an old project. We stopped doing this. We're not collecting this data anymore, so we're not worried about building a data flow that's going to help us in the future. We just want to get this chunk of data into WQX. Then maybe the WQX templates might be a good idea for that. However, if you're trying to build a sustainable flow for your program so that put the time in this year, next year, you don't have to put time in and it'll be easy, work on the import configuration side. Leave your data the way you have it, and you can teach WQXWeb how to read in your data. So if you, for example, if you in your data, if you just call this oxygen DO is an header for your data set. And you can teach WQX every time it sees DO, it goes to replace it with oxygen comma dissolved. And you can also tell it to fill in the piece of equipment, units, the method, and everything else just based on knowing that you found DO in that column. And so that's the power of import configurations. So once you've made a decision, I have this data set and I'm going to try to do it this way with the templates, or it's my ongoing program. I need to teach the application how to read what I'm doing. Start to assemble what you need, understand what you're going to need with documentation to start doing the submission. And it's pretty basic stuff. For your project, all you need again is an ID, a name, and a description. You can attach documents, you don't have to. So these are just the required things. For WQX, there's a set number of required fields, and then there's a couple hundred other that are optional. So if you really want to get an A+ on documenting your data, submitting everything, and checking all the boxes, you can use more of those fields. but the required fields are not nearly as many. For location, we use an ID, a name, the type of water body, the coordinates for the site, and how you measure the coordinates. And then for result level information, we start to get a little bit more. All right, so WQX can store data from air, sediment, and fish tissue and water. So you need to tell us the sample media. Is this a water sample? Now, again, that's probably not stuff you guys are keeping in your data set. You know you monitor water, so you don't put water in your data set, right? But that's something you can add in along the way. You don't have to have it in your data set. You can just tell WQX all these samples were collected in sample media water. We need a start date. We need to know your collection methods, so how you collected it. Did you follow this EPA protocol? Did you follow your own? What equipment did you use? The characteristic name is the parameter, so dissolved oxygen or fish habitat, whatever it might be. That's the characteristic. And then we need the value. We need the unit. If you collected a sample and took it to a lab, then we need to know the analytical lab methods. So if it's just something you're observing in the field, you don't have to submit that. But if you say that you took a sample, then we need a few more things about what happened with that sample. So step 4, you're going to download a WQXWeb template. And again, this is probably useful whether or not you plan on using it to submit, just to be able to reference and see. So we'll have example data sets in the template. You can see what fields are required. We have templates for a variety of different data types. So whether it's physical chemical data, we have a separate template just for biological data, so macroinvertebrates, fish, fish tissue, um, habitat metrics, or indexes that you might be calculating. Um, and we have templates even now for continuous time series data. That's something that we didn't used to support, but a lot of folks are out there deploying real-time sensors now, and they're getting some high-frequency data. WQX wasn't really designed to store that. We're kind of metadata rich. One sample, a lot of information about that sample. Versus continuous time series data is lots and lots of measurements. They're all exactly the same. Leave the metadata behind. So we have a way to summarize your continuous time series data. So instead of sending us the full data record, you do like daily statistics, daily max, min, average, things like that. And we've got some resources also on how to calculate those statistics. Step 5, you're going to fill out those 3. So this is an example of the WQX web template. And just the first page is there's an instructions page and definitions for everything that you're going to find in there. And then the next 3 are basically your data tabs. So this is where you put your 3 pieces of data: the projects, the locations, and then the results. And then when you save that, you come back to WQXWeb. You'll take this one file, you upload it, and you'll use 3 different import configurations to read it. First one will read projects, and the second one will read the locations in, and the third one will read in your results. One other thing, when we look at this, we've done some color coding. So red fields are required elements. So when you look at the templates now, it's really easy to see what's required and what's optional. Anything that has a hyperlink that you can click on, that's one of the fields that we control the values on. So, right, so don't just let everybody just call DO whatever they want. Everybody has to call it the same name so that everyone knows we're talking about dissolved oxygen, for example. So when you click on one of those, that's actually going to take you to that list of values so that you can actually see these are values that I'm allowed to choose from. They're also built into the sheet, so they're there in the documents. So as you click on the cell, it's going to give you the values that you have to use. And then anything that's just black is optional. So projects, I guess I just covered this again, but required legacy allowable values. I was like, I thought it was right there somewhere. And then black is optional, and we carry that through all of them. Locations tab, again, just ID location, the location type. And that's one you'll see has a link on it. So we have a list of official water body types, and you just pick one from the list. Coordinates, and that's about it. And then for the results tab, again, we've got the project ID, we've got the location ID, and then all the normal stuff, dates, what kind of activity was this? Was this a sample? Was it a field measure observation? Or was it like a QA duplicate? Um, you talk about your methods that you used, your equipment, what you measured, and finally what you detected, what were the values. And then I'll point back to this activity ID. This is an important concept. In WQX, all the results are kind of organized under activities. You can think about that as that's the unique thing that happened out in the field that day. So if you went out in the field, you were doing duplicates. You did your primary sample, that's one activity. And then you did a duplicate, you measured again, or maybe a different person or a different piece of equipment. That's a different activity. You don't query the database for DO from that site on that day, and it's going to find two values, right? It's going to find your primary and it's going to find your duplicate. So we organize everything by activities, and so that makes them unique, and so that we can pull back just what we're looking for. We're only looking for the primary measurements, or we're just looking for the QA samples. Um, and then building that activity ID can be complicated for folks. We have an automatic button so that you could upload. It's just going to combine what makes something unique, which is basically the project, the location, the date, the time, and the activity type. If you combine those five things, put them all together and mash it into one ID, you've got a unique activity in WQX. So that's something that's always kind of given folks a little trouble. And so we have a feature in WQX that you can say, do it for me automatically. I don't worry about figuring out what's unique, what my activities are. And as long as you don't have something in there weird or correct, it'll do it for you. And so it's little tips and tricks like that. Folks get stuck and they may not realize we built a tool for that. There's an option now that helps out. And so having those one-on-one conversations when you do get stuck with something, reach out to us and we can say, oh, you don't have to worry about that. We can take care of it, I'll shut it down. So after you got those sheets filled in, you're going to log into WQXWeb. This is what it looks like. And WQXWeb is where you can register all the information that's unique to your program. So the unique sample collection methods or analysis methods that your program uses, this is where you can tell us about it. It's also where you can build your own custom import configuration. So if you want to leave your data set exactly the way you have it and just teach WQXWeb how to read it, this is where you can do that. And then eventually you're going to import your files. So this is where you upload. When you go to import your data set, the first thing it's going to ask you is, okay, what are we uploading here? Are we uploading projects? Are we uploading locations? Are we uploading results? So first you tell it what you're trying to upload. And it's going to have pick out the import configurations. So if you're using templates, we have import configurations that are already built to match them. So you just choose it out of the list. And as long as you haven't changed what the template looks like, it still has all those columns in the same place, that import configuration will read it right in. Say you added a couple columns, optional ones that weren't in the template. All you have to do would then just be open that import configuration, save it, and add those columns there, re-import. When you hit import, basically you do that first for projects, then for locations, and then for results. So you just kind of repeat that same thing 3 times, and it can be the same spreadsheet, right? Like when we do the templates, they're all different tabs, and you'll see there it'll ask you what worksheet am I supposed to look at to import this. So the templates are already set up; it knows which tab to look at. But again, if you customize something, you just need to tell it where to look. And then you can review and troubleshoot your data submissions. So most folks, the first time they submit, they're going to get some errors, right? Something you didn't catch. The nice thing is, right within the application, you can click on View all my validation errors and warnings. It's going to show you what it found wasn't right, or what was missing. And then right there, without having to start or read your data set, you can tell it to fill in those missing pieces, and it'll add and edit to your import configuration, and then resubmit. Now you've kind of troubleshooted your submission. Once it's been read in and imported, then you hit send it to CDX, and it ships the new. It's going to package that up into that XML style file, and you shoot it over to the central data exchange, which is where they have, I imagine, just banks and banks of computers, right? That's where it all lives in some giant warehouse. And then you get to review your submission. So after it goes, you can pull down a QA/QC report. Thank you. And get information about all of your submissions. Do we have any suggestions that maybe this wasn't the right method, or you might want to go back and look at this value because it was outside of range. And so, if doing QA is something that you have to do to the data, you might want to look at the built-in QA that we have right here that might do some of that for you. And if you do find something in your QA report, you can edit that report and then resubmit that. You don't have to start all over, go back to your database. Those are just the nuts and bolts. Again, kind of the big three for WQX. There's available fields, and you can find them either in the templates or the data exchange template. There's about 350 total fields that you can use. About 75 of them have allowable value lists. We call that the WQX domain service. So for those 75 fields is where we have an Excel sheet of what the acceptable values are. And then there's the business rules, right? So things like if you said it was a sample, we're going to make sure that you have analytical method. Or if you said that this was a biological sample, we're going to need to know, okay, was it a macroinvertebrate, was it tissue? So those are the business rules where it starts checking your data for completion. And you can check those out separately. And so nothing comes as a surprise, and see which ones might be impacting your data. If you ever review the domain list, you don't find what you're looking for, reach out to us. We can add new things. We do it every day. So if you have something that you new in your program, doesn't seem like we've got a spot for it, just ask us and we can add it. That's about it. And then we're out of time. We lost a few minutes in the beginning. The import configurations, real quick. Just want to talk about what they look like. And you'll see this is where you actually teach it what's in your spreadsheet. And you can do a variety of modifications and like if-then statements. So like I said, every time it sees DO, you can tell it, fill in my method, my equipment, and my units with these values. If you find pH, fill in my methods and my equipment and my units with these values. And so you don't have to have everything in your data set, especially if it's something that's repeated over and over and over again. You can tell WQX to add it along the way. Pretty powerful, variety of if-then statements, all sorts of different different functions that familiar to Excel users about carving up data or splitting it. It's pretty impressive, and you can test the expression and see how well it's going to work. So again, I'm here all week. I've probably thoroughly confused some of you guys, so please do come find me. I've got slots available today, tomorrow. So just reach out to me. That's my address, my email address, griggs.adam@epa.gov, and or you can come find me over there at the table and sign up. So thank you, guys. One sec.
We have one question from the chat here. So it says, can you clarify about the new reporting requirements under the 106 guidance? Do tribes have to report just the WQX required parameters or all parameters tested?
So if you are collecting the parameters with 106 funding, you probably need to submit it to WQX. And I would say you've got over 20,000 parameters register. But if you happen to be collecting something that we don't have, we can add it for you. So it should come.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, guys.
Oh, yes, lunch is available upstairs, everyone. So